So it means that people can be held personally accountable for committing genocide, or for conspiring to commit genocide, for inciting genocide, attempting genocide, or being complicit in genocide. And it also makes it an obligation on states that have signed the convention to prevent and punish genocide. So I'll come back to those issues when we talk about accountability. What's special really about genocide, and what sets it apart from other crimes against humanity and from war crimes, is this specific intent to destroy the group in whole or in part. And I think the reason why many legal scholars and human rights organisations are starting to talk about genocide in the context of what's happening in Gaza is because of the special characteristics of this particular military offensive. And I won't dwell on them too much because we all know the horrifying facts, and we've heard from our colleague on the panel about the terrible atrocities that are being committed. But let me pull out just a few key aspects of this assault, which is what makes us think that perhaps we have evidence of this specific intent on behalf of Israel, which is to destroy the Palestinian people in whole or in part. First of all, we have the statements by Israeli officials, which I'm sure many of you will be aware of. And these are people, not just random people within Israel, but also persons within the chain of command of this military operation, including Benjamin Netanyahu, including people like the Minister of Defense, saying things that demonstrate an intent to destroy the Palestinian people. Saying things like, for example, the Israeli Defense Minister has said he's ordered a complete siege on the Gaza Strip because we are fighting human animals and we act accordingly. And Netanyahu invoking, I think as Dr. Dawood mentioned, a biblical reference to the Amalekites, in which he said that people, the army must go forth and destroy all that belongs to them, that is the Gazans. Now this kind of language, which is dehumanizing and which talks about total destruction, indiscriminate killing of the entirety of the population, of everything that belongs to them, of treating them as worse, as subhuman, is a sort of language that evidences a kind of intent to destroy the group. The second aspect that we think maybe evidences that sort of intent are the actions themselves. It's the nature of this military operation, which is unprecedented, both in terms of its scale, in terms of the total bombardment of the Gaza Strip, the mass amounts of civilian infrastructure that has been damaged or destroyed, the apparent targeting of hospitals, of schools, of shelters, of all of the infrastructure that is indispensable for life in Gaza. The context of imposing a complete siege, as we know, to starve people of food, of water, of fuel. The bombing, early on, of the Rafah crossing, apparently a deliberate attempt to prevent aid getting in to Gaza. The bombing, for example, the wholesale bombing, I don't know if people have noticed this, the systematic bombing of bakeries. These are the sorts of actions that appear to be aimed at killing very large numbers of people and or creating the conditions that make life impossible in Gaza, i.e. that are aimed at the destruction of the group, as opposed to of any kind of real military, of there being any real military objective. And I have to say, if you just take a step back and you look at the scale, as I said, and the nature of the military action in Gaza, it's actually really difficult to discern a military objective. It's difficult to understand what the military rationale is for the decisions that are being taken. And that gives us an indication or a clue that perhaps, the objective isn't truly military, that is political ultimately, and that it evidences this special kind of intent to destroy the group. And one other aspect of intent that I want to mention, because people often don't, is the context of the West Bank. So just very briefly, I'm sure many of you will have followed events in the West Bank, a massive ratcheting up of persecutory and punishing actions in the West Bank.